Welcome back to the Against All Odds, the Less Than 1% Chance podcast with your host, Maria Ponte, where we will hear stories of incredible people thriving against all odds. And my hope is that we can all see how life is always happening for us, even when we are the less than 1% chance. Hey, welcome back to Against All Odds, the Less Than 1% Chance podcast with your host, Maria Aponte. I hope you are doing fantastic today. Thank you so much for joining in. I have such an amazing treat for you. So, Miss Shelley Meche'tte is an author and a certified life purpose and confidence coach and a mom life strategist. Don't we all need that? So welcome. I'm so grateful that you're here with us, Shelley. Tell us a little bit about you and what your Against All Odds story is.
Oh my goodness, Maria, thank you so much. I tell you, yes, I do have an against all odds story. When my girls were about maybe 5 and 12, first of all, I come from an upbringing of being very independent. And so my mom was a very independent woman. She raised me that way. You go after the things that you want. She raised me with lots of strength. And so that was my mentality. You go after the things you want. I had pretty decent grades growing up. I put my head to something and it's going to happen. At 18, I purchased my first car. At 16, I started working. At 20, I think 23 or 24, I moved out of the house. And so all of these things, when I put my mind to something, I do it. When I became a mom, I was a single mom. And so I had my daughter, she was on my hip. We was just going. And that's just what you do. You pick up and you go. And unfortunately, there were some things that happened in daycare. And I decided, man, when I became pregnant with my second child, that I just didn't want that experience again. And so at that time, I had ended up getting married, and my husband and I decided, hey, well, why don't I just stay at home? I just didn't want that experience again. I wanted to be there. I wanted to be close to the children, and I didn't want that same routine that I had. I was gone from I dropped my daughter off at 6 something in the morning at daycare, and I didn't see her again until about 6:30 in the evening. And so I wanted something different from my daughter. So I ended up leaving. I left my career, which was in entertainment, which I've always loved. I tell people all the time, honey, I was acting in the womb, okay? I was in the womb doing monologues, okay? So when I ended up leaving my job in entertainment, I left it of my own free will. And after me and my husband talked about this, but what I didn't know is that I was leaving pieces of me behind too. And when I ended up becoming that stay-at-home mom, Maria, something changed. I had no value. I had no confidence. I didn't know who I was. I had these titles, but I didn't know the woman. I became someone's caretaker. My day became babbling with an 18-month-old. I was running errands. I was cooking dinner, cleaning the house, cleaning spit up. I had no one to talk to. And I fell into this depression. And I knew what the depression looked like because I had fallen into a depression years before. And it had gotten so bad that I was considering taking my life. And so I knew where I was. And I knew that if I didn't get some type of assistance, that I was going to fall into this dark hole. But I still felt too embarrassed because I had this life where people were like, oh, couples goals, marriage goals. And so I felt too embarrassed again to ask for anything. It wasn't until I was standing in my bathroom mirror one day and I was literally screaming because I just felt so isolated. I felt so closed off. I felt like there was nothing of me to give except someone's mother. And I went into a full emotional breakdown. It almost felt like a nervous breakdown. And I fell to the floor. It was that scream where your head is in your hands and you're in that fetal position. And someone was screaming, and it was me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, who is that? you know?
Yeah.
But it was in that moment that I realized something has to change. Something in me has to change. I can't make anybody else responsible for my happiness, my joy,
Yes.
my peace. And at that time, I did a complete self-discovery, rediscovering who I was, who the woman was. I stripped myself of every single title. And I began a journey of who is this woman? Who is Shelley? And as I began to love the woman, not the mom, not the wife, nobody, as I began to get to know the woman all over again, I began developing a voice again. I began developing my confidence again. I began asking for what I needed and what I wanted. And I was even able to take some dreams off of the back burner because I felt worthy of them now, including being booked to do a Disney project a couple of years ago. I never would have had the confidence to
Awesome.
even audition for
Yeah.
that had it not been for me going back to find out who I was, what did I love, and putting myself first.
Yeah, absolutely. I had one of those. I've had multiple experiences of self-identity, but I clearly remember after I separated from my ex-husband, it was like, oh, I've been with this person for 11 years, and I went from being a daughter that was very, very protected
Mm-hmm.
to being a wife and trying to have a child and then this mom and I have this career and but who is Maria?
Yes.
And I started doing just these random things and I realized give me a glass of wine and some cheese and put me in front of a basketball game and I will thoroughly enjoy that.
Yes.
Thing
Yes.
that I didn't do. I had not watched basketball since probably middle school.
Wow.
And all of a sudden I'm like, "Oh, I remember I enjoyed this." I
Exactly.
don't do it now, but it's not but it was me rediscovering who me was.
Exactly. I remember asking myself, do you even like Cheerios? Or do you eat the Cheerios because the kids leave them? And
Exactly.
so, just going back, one of the exercises that I did was going back to childhood and saying, what was your most serene moment? What is it that you really enjoyed? And is there an opportunity to get pieces of that? We all know that as we grow, life changes, things change. We can't do every single thing that we used to do, but I can bring pieces of it with me. Maybe I can't go out with the girls every weekend, but I can say, hey, I need to schedule something once a month with you guys. I need my girls. I need some time. I love to watch sitcoms. And so now part of me rejuvenating me is every single night. Honey, you will find me with some good times, with some golden girls. You're going to find
I love
something
it.
because I need to laugh before
Yeah.
I go to sleep. But that's something that rejuvenates me. Something so simple that I never thought would be important started to be important when I began to go, what is it that you love? It doesn't have to be grand. What are the simplistic things that you love? And I'm like, I really like to watch me a comedy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then being able to put that into my life was,
Yeah.
you just wouldn't believe what a game changer that was.
Yeah. And it's so funny because these are circumstances that we can do and try to look for that identity constantly. Because guess what? Now, the Maria that I am right now doesn't watch basketball,
Mm-hmm.
doesn't drink wine because I feel awful afterwards, and doesn't eat cheese because I feel awful afterwards. So this new Maria is loves other things and
Yes.
it's just we are ever evolving
Yes.
and it's so beautiful that like we can learn who we are in the
Mm-hmm.
moment right now and
Mm-hmm.
that should be a sacred space for us. Like
Exactly. Exactly.
oh yeah,
And that's one of the things that I actually love too, Maria, is that I didn't have to remain that person. There's so much pressure on us as people to remain the same purpose. We're getting all of these mixed messages all the time. Still be that person that you were. Don't change. Make sure that you're evolving and you're being the best person that you absolutely can. Well, don't you change, because when you change, then you're fake. Well, make sure that you grow. Make sure that you do and you be happy for you. So we're constantly getting mixed messages. And so that was the other thing about growing into my identity and understanding that I didn't have to be the
Yes.
same Shelley. Even if I did like Cheerios, it's okay for 3 years later for me not to like it anymore. I
Yeah.
don't have to remain that same person. But if there are pieces of me that I enjoyed before, I can definitely be sure to incorporate those things into my life season, because that
Yes.
was the other thing that I learned. We all have life seasons. And when we try to remain the exact same person in a new life season, all it breeds is frustration, bitterness, anxiety, overwhelm. But when
Yeah.
we allow ourselves to say, this is my season now. I'm in a season, I'm a caretaker right now, or I'm working 9 to 5 and building a business right now. My needs, my priorities, the way I'm looking at things is different today than it was 3 months ago.
Yes.
And it's
Absolutely.
okay.
Yes, I love that so much. I feel like we so often just conform to what society
Mm-hmm.
thinks that we should be, what
Mm-hmm.
our family thinks that we should be. And especially as women, I feel like we go through these phases of our lives, and we were talking about it prior to starting to record this, but this postmenopause phase of my life has been so different. So
Absolutely.
different. And
Right.
I need to learn what now I enjoy. And
Yes.
I really have learned that going out for a walk in the morning is a happy place of mine. I
Yes.
hear the birds, I feel
Mm-hmm.
like connected to the earth. I connect to God and just feel this immense gratitude. It's
Yes.
just the things that bring me peace.
Mm-hmm.
If you would have asked me a few years ago if I would have liked to go walking, I would have been like, no, I don't have time for that.
Right,
And
right.
and now I'm like, oh my God, I can't
I
wait.
love this walk.
This walk is amazing. I hear the birds chirping. It's just a different phase. And I've always been such a like go-getter. Like
Mm-hmm.
give
Mm-hmm.
give me something that I have like a goal for. And if I
Yes,
believe in it, oh, you better believe that I'm there. And
exactly.
in not that I don't have that. However, I really have to feel very passionate about something in order for me
Mm-hmm.
to put that much energy into anything,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because I'm in a different phase of my life,
Exactly.
and
Exactly.
we
And
women
yes,
have
but that's what's
hormones.
so awesome.
Yeah.
That's what's so awesome. Not just being in a different phase, but really receiving that phase, really looking around and going, wow, this is a beautiful time in my life. Even when life is chaotic, where can you look and go, yeah, things may be up and down. Yes, some things may be out of my control. But when I can turn that inward, and when I can say, but what is the beauty of right
Yeah.
now? It doesn't mean that I'm not going through. It doesn't mean that life isn't frustrating right now. It doesn't mean that everything is glamorous. What it means is, in the midst of everything, I can still turn things inward and find the beauty, understanding who my identity is. I think
Yes.
one of the things that I loved so much when rediscovering myself and who I was is that my value didn't depend on circumstance. My
Yes.
value didn't depend on looks. My value didn't depend on the size of the dress. My value didn't depend on if I got the kids to bed at 9. My value didn't even depend on if I lost my temper. It didn't make me this bad person, this bad woman, this bad wife, this bad mom. When I learned to understand that there are human experiences that do not affect the worth of who I am as a person, as a woman, that's when I began to become more free, more open,
Yes.
and even more accepting of my own errors and mistakes.
Yes. I feel, oh my God, yes. Yes, yes, yes. Just if you didn't hear that, just rewind and listen to that again. And I feel like you become more empathetic for the people around you.
Oh, absolutely.
Like
Absolutely. I don't know
you
how you can't be.
I feel like this empathy now for, or just a different perspective in looking at people's situations rather than, and my kids get irritated with me about this, but like when even when they're having issues with friends or whatever, and I'm like, well, have you thought of maybe they're on their monthly cycle right now and their just tolerance level is not as much, and maybe that's why they snipped at you, because I feel like last week you looked at me too. So and I understood that you were just not in a good state of mind. But they hate that. They're like, "Oh, mom, here you go again." But it makes you understand that there's so many different perspectives. You don't know what someone is going through. You don't know what kind of
Right.
family life they are having. And it makes you such a more empathetic person when you realize you have your own eras that you go through.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
maybe my patience isn't as much right now because my estrogen levels are really low and all the things. Yeah,
All of the
whatever.
things. It's always something. Life is so awesome, right? That there's always something that's going on. And so, if we have an opportunity to look at people and look at situations through their eyes, sometimes some people at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. You're just a mean person. But at the end of the day, if we take time to not just categorize you first, but
Yeah.
to see the human nature in you, then I really think that there would be more of a gentleness
Yeah.
one to the other, that there would be so much more kindness, so
Yeah.
much more understanding if we don't jump to the conclusion
Yeah.
first.
Absolutely. I feel like that very much sums it up. I feel like this world, I feel like needs more compassion or empathy and kindness. And it's okay that you don't have the same beliefs that I do.
Mm-hmm.
Just like it's okay that I don't have the same beliefs that you do. And if we can still have a conversation about these things,
Mm-hmm.
gosh, we've evolved a lot.
Yes.
But it all starts with us and learning who we are and our identity and what helps us drive for more, and what some when we need to retreat a little bit and have our 30-45 minute sitcom that just makes us
Yeah.
laugh. Like those are the things when we learn who we are and what
Mm-hmm.
makes us tick in whichever way, we just become much more accepting people, I think.
Yes, we're much better for ourselves and being much better for me than I'm so much better for you. When I went through that metamorphosis, when I began to look at who are you, what do you enjoy, when I began to take my dreams off of the back burner, because that was one of the things I felt that I had missed out. I
Yeah.
felt that I missed my chance. I missed my opportunity. That saddened me that I would never have an opportunity to do the things that I wanted to do in life. But when I understood that dreams don't die because life changes, dreams don't have to die because you become a parent, dreams don't have to die because you lost a loved one, dreams don't have to die. Do we have to sometimes be flexible? Absolutely. Do
Mm.
some things have to be done in a different way? Yes, they do. So I couldn't follow the dream the way that I thought I was going to.
Yeah.
But other avenues opened up because my priority was really to know me and to bring my children and my family into that side of me. And one of the most wonderful things was I was able to connect with people who did stage opportunities where I could bring my children along with me.
Yeah.
So things sometimes what we have to understand is when we change in life, when we're looking at who we are, when we're looking at loving ourselves unconditionally, we also want to look at the fact that sometimes it whatever your it is may look different, and that's okay. What is
Yes.
still feeding you, what is still pouring into you, and remembering that those things do not determine your worth. I had it backwards. If I go out here and if I become this actress or if I fulfill this goal, then I'm important. I had it backwards. I was important the day I was conceived.
Yep.
I was important. And so understanding that importance, understanding that worth, understanding that identity is through that confidence that I'm able to do and follow any and every dream that I desire, because those things, they're not what determines who I am. And that was a huge lesson for me to learn. Whether you get the part, whether you don't. This happens, whether it doesn't, whether you get the promotion, whether you don't get the promotion, whether you get the job, whether you don't get the job. None of these things determine who you are
Yeah.
and your purpose, your identity, your confidence, your value, your worth. Those things were determined before any title was ever given.
Yes. Yes. Oh, it's so funny. I've had an incredible amount of amazing people in this season 2 of my podcast, Against All Odds. And I want to work with every one of them. I want to work with all of my guests. This is so good. I'm over here like, yeah, give it to me all.
I
Mom,
love it.
I love it. It's gonna end up like hurting my pocket. No, I'm kidding. It would only help. But it honestly, it's so amazing to just remember that.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so many things that try to deter us from remembering
Yes.
that true self that we were perfectly made when we
Yes.
were made.
Yes. When we were made.
And it was just goodness, the things that we have all gone through that has tried to hold us back. And
Mm-hmm.
it's a shift. It's that identity shift that we need to go back to remembering the amazing human that we are,
Yes.
the amazing
Absolutely.
soul, because I feel like this is just a vessel. This is just a vessel, but we who we are deep in our soul is incredible just how
Mm-hmm.
they are.
Mm-hmm.
Which means that it doesn't matter the size you are, the color hair you have, if a gray comes out or not, if like,
Girl, I could
or
show you a couple of them.
I know, me too. If there's wrinkles, like I
Yes.
I have a different appreciation, I think, for aging because I didn't know if I was going to be here
Mm-hmm.
past 32 years old. And so having that reality, I think, shifts a lot
Mm-hmm.
in
Mm-hmm.
your life. In like, I woke up this morning and God, I'm so grateful.
Yes. Yes.
It's a different, and I don't want anyone to have to go through any of the things that I've went through or deal with illnesses that I've gone through, but I think that it comes with a different appreciation for life
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and
I
for
I I agree. I agree with you. Early, I think of my oldest, I don't even know if she was two yet. And I was in a terrible, terrible car accident. I was almost hit head on by an 18-wheeler. It just
oh,
so happens that they were driving on the wrong side of it was only two lanes and they were driving on the wrong side. And I literally thought, okay, this is the end of my life. This is the
yeah.
process that I was going through. And as the truck began to get closer and closer, the one thing I thought, which is really funny when I think about it now, I was like, wow, it's good that I have nice teeth because that's all they're going to be able to identify
If
me
I,
by. And that was
oh
my
my
thought. As I
gosh.
said that, I was like, it's really nice that you
Yeah.
have nice teeth. And someone behind me, I slammed on my brake, not knowing, I don't know why I slammed on my brake, but I slammed on the brake and I blew the horn. I'm like, maybe he's asleep. I don't know. But
Yeah.
when I slammed on the brake, the car behind me slammed into me. But it slammed into me just enough to shift my car over to where I had blacked out. And it shifted my car over just enough to when I opened up my eyes, the truck had literally was next to me. I don't know if you could see, but he was next to
Yeah.
me like this. And he had literally just missed me. My windows were up and I felt all the air from him missing me. And
Oh
so
my
when you
gosh.
say the appreciation for just getting up, and like I said, I don't even think my daughter was two at that time. And so the fact that I left her that morning in daycare and may not have ever seen her again, waking up with her every day, being able to see her, even while I was going through that depression and those
Yeah.
suicidal thoughts, there was still this little appreciation in there, like, wow, I still get to see your face. And it's really her little face that really helped to pull me through. So I totally understand when you say things are different. You appreciate things in a different way when you've
Yeah.
gone through so many things.
Yeah.
And that's another against all odds.
Yes. Oh my God, that's so scary. We were
It
we
was
were on a
very scary.
road trip. I was 17, so I had just gotten my driver's license. And we went on this road trip, and so it was me, my mom, and my dad rotating, and my sister was in their car, but she's younger. We rotating the driving. We live in the Orlando area, and we drove up to Maine. And when we were driving back down, we were on our way back, and I had just given the car over to my mom. And I remember we were going on this highway, and next to us was this 18-wheeler, and there was traffic, right? It was still flowing, but there was traffic, and this van comes like up in front of us, and like minutes later, I guess the 18-wheeler that was to our right had fallen asleep, and he was like slowly going into the other lane, that the van that was in front of us was had to like parallel with him going towards like the middle of between the two ways. It was just crazy, and it could have been us, and we
Mm-hmm.
were literally watching it as it unfolded. And I
Wow.
remember the 18-wheeler crossed over to the other side of the oncoming traffic, and the van got stuck in the median in the middle. And at the end, it hit the top of the van, and you could see the van like moving side to side. And I was like, oh my God, no.
Wow.
It's just so scary. I to this day, I hate driving anywhere near any 18-wheeler.
Me too.
It's I can only
I,
imagine.
I try to get away from it really quickly.
Yeah, like I will slow down. If they're like behind me, I will speed up a little
Yes,
bit, get
I
away.
can't. All of these years later, a 18 wheeler, it still freaks me out.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. I mean, makes sense. So, how did you go from like you went back to acting? I want to hear a little bit about Disney. What happened there? Where can we find
Yes.
you?
Oh my goodness. It was so exciting. Yes, I had an opportunity, like I said, to do plays. And so that feeling of wanting to act and be in front of an audience, I had the chance to do that. I think there was a part of me that just was like, this is good. I'm fine. I get to still act. The dream is different. I'm fine. But over the years, I have met different people in the industry, different casting directors, different producers, and my daughter and I ended up meeting a producer, wonderful producer, Kashmir Jasmine, had ended up meeting her, and she was working on a project. A few years later, she ended up working on a project with Disney called Launchpad. They have Launchpad season one, and we did season two. Well, when she ended up getting on that project, she and the casting director, I don't know if they knew each other before or if they had just met at that time, but our producer friend said to the casting director, hey, I know someone who I think should audition for this part. And I think they were still open auditions. I didn't even know about it. So I tell you, God just put some things together.
I love
But ended up calling my daughter and said to her, hey, do you think your mom would be interested in auditioning for this Disney part? And I was like, would I be
what?
interested? What?
Yes.
I literally used to work for Disney. And so it was really a
Full
serene
circle.
moment
Yeah.
because I left Disney 20 years prior.
Oh
I
my
left to be
gosh.
at home to take care of my children. And so for it to come full circle, and I ended up auditioning. But again, this is after doing the work and building the confidence, because at first when she said it, I think I got overwhelmed and I was like, oh no, I can't audition for Disney. And I'm like, girl, step out of it.
Yes.
Yes, you can.
You self-coached. That is the best.
Yes, you can. Look at what you've done. Look at what you've accomplished. And you're always telling your clients, once you prepare for this to go, you better take that on yourself. Had an opportunity to audition. I think it may have been maybe close to a month later
Yeah.
when I got the email that I had gotten the part. And I
That's
was just like,
amazing.
I couldn't believe it. I just couldn't believe it. And so something that was so dear to my heart, and now it's still streaming on Disney Plus, the Launchpad series. And
Oh,
our
I love it.
particular project is called Project CC. So yeah,
I
to see
love that. That
to
is
see
so
to see
awesome.
myself.
Yes, that is so awesome. I love that. I love that. It's funny how your story wasn't over with that.
It wasn't over. It
Yeah.
wasn't over. And the thing that I love is, because I know who I am now, Maria, I don't think my story ever has to end.
Yeah,
I don't think
absolutely.
there's an ending to it. I think there's something new. I'm open to new
Yeah.
opportunities. I'm open to learning more about
Yeah.
myself. In 6 months, a year, who knows? I may never want to act again. And that's okay,
Yeah.
because I'm not identified by title.
Yes, I love that. Oh my gosh, I love that so much. Yeah, I feel like it's our continuing series.
Yes. Yeah, I
Y-
love that. I love that. It's our continuing series, and I'm open to another season.
Yeah.
And I'm open to a different project.
Exactly.
I'm just open to it. And if this particular season of life gets canceled, then hey, what's the new one?
Exactly. I love it
Yes.
so very much. It speaks to my soul. What limiting beliefs do you feel like you needed to
Hmm.
overcome in order for all of this to
Yeah.
to be in your life?
One of the limited beliefs that I think that I really needed to overcome is that my age determines success. So if you're 30, if you're 40, especially if you're 50, it's like it's too late. Well, you
Yeah.
can't do this. Well, you might as well just sit down. Well, you're a grandmother now, so you can't. And so just really understanding that until I take my last breath, I can. And I get to add that. I get to add that. Another limiting belief was, because I'm a mom, this is what you do. Other things have to go on the back burner, or you don't get to pursue those things. I learned that I can still fulfill goals and be a great mom too.
Yeah.
I don't have to be either or. And it's okay to be flexible. It's okay for it to look different. I was so determined that it has to look like this for you to be successful. And that was limiting for me, because it
Yeah.
had to be like this. And because it wasn't like that, I didn't see another way. But the thing is, I wasn't allowing myself to see another way. When I
Yeah.
began to look at other things, when I began to go, well, what are some meetup groups? When I began to go, well, what can you start? You're sitting here going, oh, it doesn't look like this, is not like this. Well, how come you don't create something? Why don't
Yeah.
you do something? Why don't you make it something? We limit
Yeah.
ourselves by thinking we have to connect with how someone else is doing it,
Yeah.
when you can actually create a way to do it.
Absolutely. Yes, yes, yes. Oh my gosh. I listen to you all the time. What daily habits do you feel like have helped you get to your level of success?
I am a list maker, like literally. I love lists. And I get excited, y'all. Now, this is the nerd in me, okay? When I get my list and I start checking stuff off, I start getting excited. I'm like, oh, you did this? Oh, you did that? Okay, girl.
I love it.
So for me, I like to be able to see my productivity. And so I make daily lists, I make weekly lists, I make monthly goals.
Yeah.
And I'm very much of an ABC person. So I have to have a step for
Yeah.
everything. What is your step for this? And so if I can see, even if I didn't reach that goal today, if I can see 2 steps that I made, then I feel like, oh, this is wonderful. So that has become a habit of mine that I must have for my own sanity. I must
Yeah.
have order to things. What does it look like? I am a person who I'm very much a planner. And my husband laughs at me because he's like, well, let's just spontaneously get up and go. And I'm like, great, just let me know what time. He's like, you're missing it again.
You're missing it. You're missing it again. Yes, I love that's hilarious.
And I'm like, sure, we can spontaneously go. What, on Tuesday? You want to spontaneously head over?
You can semi disrupt my way of being. Semi. You have to give me some context here.
I'm trying, but that one is kind of like, ooh, I'm trying to
Yeah.
be, okay, we're just gonna go. And I'm like, ooh, at what time? So
So I could prepare.
that one I'm having a hard time with, guys.
Oh, that's so funny. Yeah, I have become, and this is, I feel like I'm pretty good about like flying by the seat of my pants. That I'm good with. However, I do feel like I've been sitting in the mornings before the craziness
Mm-hmm.
starts and
Mm-hmm.
going on my trusty little phone and going into the calendar and then time blocking the things that I have to do.
Yes.
Because especially with the amount of guest interviews that I've had in the last like 2
I'm
weeks,
sure.
I'm like, okay, I need to figure out when I'm going to get my business done, when I'm going to get like
Yes.
help people get healthy. And that's with the passion that I found because it saved my life. And
Mm-hmm.
the fact that I get to do that, now I have to also a time block for that so
Yes.
that I can dedicate it to those clients and
Yes.
those team members and so forth. So it really, so as much as I can just up and go, I also have found a lot of serenity in my brain when I'm like, okay, this is how much time it's going to take me to take the kid to school, come back,
Mm-hmm.
be prepared, have my breakfast. I have it all in my
It is
calendar.
so funny that you say that because most of the clients that I work with, that's one of the first exercises because I work with busy moms, helping them to balance or what I like to call harmonize motherhood with life goals and dreams.
Yeah.
And so most of the time they're busy, ambitious moms and they just don't see where they have any time throughout their day, especially for self-care. They're feeling overwhelmed. And one of the first things I say to them is, I want you to keep just a daily calendar of just one day from 6 to 6, 5 to 5, whatever it is. And I want you to write down every single thing that you're doing
Yeah.
throughout that day. If you're up at 5:30, if you have breakfast by 5:20, if the kids are up at 6:20 and from 6:20 to 6:45, you get them ready. If from 7 to 7:30, it takes you to get to their school. So just give a breakdown of every single thing you do.
Yeah.
And usually there's one of two things that happen. They either look at that day and they understand why they're overwhelmed because we only have a 100% bandwidth. That's it, nothing more.
Yep.
And they're trying to put 200% into that 100%. And so they're able to understand, I see why I'm overwhelmed. I see why I feel like I'm going to just choke somebody
Yeah.
around 3 o'clock every day. Either
Yep.
their eyes are opened in that way, or else they look on the other side and they go, oh, well, actually, I do have a couple of hours here that
Yeah.
maybe I could do this. Or I didn't realize that I was spending time not doing this. Or I see where I can batch. Because for me, I began to learn
Content and
batching
stuff.
when I
Yeah.
would take my children to sports and things like that. I would watch them for maybe like an hour, and then I'd go to the car for that next hour to answer emails or
Yep.
just get some me time. So they're able to see where they can begin batching their tasks. And so it's usually one or the other. Sometimes I have something different, but usually is, oh, I see the overwhelm, or oh, I see where I can get some things done. So what I tell people, that understanding, when I let my clients know, if you just break down your day,
Yeah.
you really will see. This is going to blow your mind. And this is going to be the beginning of you releasing chaos in your day,
Yeah.
of you releasing overwhelm. This is really the beginning of you understanding boundaries and how to set boundaries, understanding priorities and
Yep.
what means most to you in this particular season. It all starts with being able to see, what does my day look like? And you
Yep.
can't see that until you can do exactly what you're doing, Maria, getting up and going, this is the amount of time that I spend here. This is what I'm going to do there. I'm going to take a couple of minutes to sit back over here. And then that's when we begin to take better control of our day and our life.
Yes. Love it. Oh my gosh. I could literally sit here and talk to you all day long. But seriously, thank you so much. You gave
Thank
so much
you.
amazing insight. I really, truly appreciate it. I love your confidence. It just exudes from the screen.
Thank you,
And
girl. It was a lot of work.
yes, it was. I love that. And I really appreciate everything that you said. I second and third all of it. So thank you again, listeners. I hope you got so much out of this like I did. I know that my dog out there got a lot out of it too because I could hear him.
I like your dog.
Yes, he is on it. He knows something good when he hears it. But thank you so very much. I hope you have all an amazing day.
Thank you.
Peace out, guys. Love your life. Bye.
Bye-bye.